Hey everyone, it's Paul here from Mage Cloud, and I'm pretty much welcome you to this new webinar that we are handling together with the Leanworks and amazing Jason Stocky, the future of the omnichannel and inventory management. Kind of one of the reasons why we decided to create this webinar, just to give you a little bit more opportunity, because if you are running your Magento store and you kind of manage the catalog over there and you're trying to sell as much as possible, basically you're thinking, hey, what's the easiest way for me to go into like into the different marketplaces, how I can optimize the time managing all of that. So that's why Leanworks is one of the platforms that we specifically using for quite a bit of clients, especially in the UK. And Jason, I know from North America, from United States. So hopefully he will be able to give us a little bit more insight. So like quickly, Jason, thank you so much for joining. So you are probably like the number one person in the United States, and all of the different like questions and etc. And I apologize, I know I sent you so much stuff your way, or which should be going to the support system. But end of the day, thank you for joining. Like Jason, amazing experience overall with e-commerce. So hopefully he will be able to give us a little bit more insight how Leanworks works, what it is, and how you can, as a business owner of Magento website, benefit from all of that. Right? So Jason, go ahead, your turn. I will put myself on the mute, share your presentation, and let's get started.
Sounds good. Paul, thanks for the opportunity, and to the attendees, thanks for joining us today. I think just to give you a little bit of background on Leanworks, we really make sure that brands and retailers are totally empowered to connect with their customers everywhere they are through multi-channel e-commerce. So fundamentally, our platform is designed to be their single connection point to their selling channels or their sales channels, and the engine to automate order workflows and back of house operations for them. So this is something we do quite well. We've got over 4,000 customers across the globe, selling in almost every country in the world. And we've got over 100 different connection points to marketplaces, fulfillment options, shipping options. And we do this for some of the world's largest brands, including Ford, Mars, and Turtle Wax. So we've got some really great, as a result of having that many customers and seeing where they're selling, how they're selling better. We have a lot of data and a lot of insights into what's happening in the market. And so for today, I'm not really going to give you a sales pitch on Leanworks, but rather I'd really like to talk to you about where we see things going, and as a seller, as a brand, how you can be prepared for that. So give me a second here. I'll share my screen, and we'll kick this off. So Paul, can you let me know if you can see my screen?
Yes, it's all good. Thank you.
All right. Perfect. All right. So the theme of my talk today really is, if you can't beat them, how do you actually join them? So I'll talk to you a little bit about the new world and what's happening in the market, marketplaces and what role they've played and what role they will be playing. Talk to you a little bit about, as a seller, where do you play? How should you be playing in this new world? And then give you 3 tips that we share with brands on how they can actually do this efficiently and succeed and really thrive in this new world. So there we go, a little behind. So first and foremost, I mean, the main thing that I know from my experience and also talking with our sellers is that selling is really tough. But where we are right now in the market is the opportunity is never like, it's never been like it is now. But honestly, the market revolves around the customers who have sky high expectations, which leads to fragmented demand. And then obviously if you own your brand, you own your site, you're recognizing that there's rising acquisition costs. And then also as e-commerce has started to gain market share as a serious sales channel, there's more competition that you have to compete with, especially global. So what's been driving this is really 2 things. One, it's the marketplaces. And channels like Facebook and Google. And also it's the consumer expectations of really kind of less friction. And we call this the effortless economy. So your consumers are expecting all your products and services to be across all the channels where they spend their time on any device, and also fundamentally delivered on the terms that they want, which creates this friction for sellers and very difficult decisions for sellers. So to understand this transition and kind of how e-commerce and commerce in general has gone through these major shifts, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today is just like we are on the precipice of a major shift again. So to kind of illustrate that point, websites solve for going into stores. It removed the friction there, and you could shop in your underwear if you remember those ads. And then from there, with millions of different websites, Google thrived, but consumers were hungry for a singular experience, and that's where Amazon really started to take hold. And typically in this slide, I say marketplaces, but I'll show you in a second just how dominant Amazon's been and why consumers have really just flocked to Amazon. But we're on this precipice where Amazon will continue to remain, one of the largest sales channels in a lot of the main e-commerce markets, but it's facing some pretty serious competition, and we actually see more fragmentation in that kind of top spot of Amazon being threatened pretty seriously. So as e-commerce or commerce becomes effortless for consumers, it's got to remain economic for brands. It's a symbiotic relationship. Consumers are going to demand more out of you as a seller, but as a seller, you have to be able to match that demand in order for them to actually, for this relationship to work. And again, to my point, consumers are going to be shopping where they spend most of your time. So at this point in time, consumers are driving this momentum forward for you as a seller to have to sell on multiple channels. So to talk about kind of how we got here, where we're at right now, and just how dominant Amazon has been, 49% or almost 50% of all US online sales in e-commerce go through Amazon. They're masters at consumer engagement, and they have better targeting data and customer acquisition than any one single brand can have. But the real secret is they're not alone. And the pace with which the market is shifting is happening much faster. These are news articles that I pulled from just the last few weeks. Facebook has accelerated their plans and offered an offering to sellers to be able to sell on their platforms. And we expect consumers to want to talk to you on WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook in new ways, and that's how they're going to shop, and they spend a lot of their time there. Google is really focused on not losing market share in advertising, so they're offering their own e-commerce platform because Amazon's threatened them from an advertising standpoint. So they're getting into the e-commerce game. And then Walmart and Shopify last week announced a new partnership to list all Shopify products onto Walmart's platform. And Walmart has actually done a really good job of accelerating their e-commerce plans and growing that channel as well. And then the last one, obviously, is Shopify. Shopify is now directly threatening Amazon by creating its own marketplace offering, and that is their kind of clear direction forward. So as a seller, it creates this kind of, this need to be everywhere your consumers are spending time. So one other thing that's really important to note is that it's no surprise that a global pandemic has the power to really shift things. I mean, for e-commerce, it's been one of the most interesting things to watch. And I'll talk about that in just a second. But with all of these shifts, there's usually a compelling event that drives dramatic change. And COVID has been a real dramatic event that is driving change. And obviously, we're still in the midst of it. But we really see it as being something that propels e-commerce forward as the main method for shopping, as millions of new people, if you can believe it, are shopping online for the very first time and finding a foothold on how to actually run their lives through e-commerce and replace retail. So even if we return back to normal, we still think that e-commerce is going to have a strong foothold. So looking at the data, this bottom trend line is the kind of expert analysis as to what e-commerce's market share would be as a total share of retail sales. And already at the end of Q4 last year, we saw e-commerce surpass those expectations. So for me personally, it was really exciting to be in the e-commerce space and see that e-commerce is accelerating beyond what experts would say it would. But what happened over the last 12 weeks has been one of the most fascinating transitions in e-commerce since it began. And now I saw a study from Deloitte It said as of May 1st, we've surpassed 40% market share. One of our sellers called it Black Friday times 10. It's been a strain on the entire system, but it's also a really good thing as consumers turn to online shopping channels to really drive most of their purchases through. So 40%, that was just May 1st. What we've seen in our data is we've seen continued growth in gross merchandise volume, so GMV and order volumes throughout the month of June, and we actually think this number is probably much, much higher. So like I said, even if things return back to normal, we don't see e-commerce following this trend line that's on the bottom here any longer. We see it being a much bigger part of people's everyday lives post-COVID. So as a brand, as a seller, how do you play? I mean, most of the brands that we run into, especially ones that have been around for a while, they have traditional distribution and retailer channels. And obviously with COVID, that's just completely been decimated. But what they don't really realize is that some of these distributors and retailers oftentimes are leveraging these e-commerce platforms and selling your products on these channels for you. And it becomes kind of like a whack-a-mole to keep them from doing that if that's something that you don't want them to do. But ultimately, their job is to move product and go direct to consumer. So what we're telling brands that they need to be paying attention to now, and what they, tools like Linworks and others provide to the market, is the ability to go direct to consumer and control these channels yourself. Because it's a way to capture the entire market. You get the most margin rather than having to wholesale to your retailers. And it's just a way that you can have visibility into what your consumers want and where they're buying. So in order to survive or to really thrive in this world, we tell our customers 3 specific things. Number 1, you need to own your brand. So your brand power, what you stand for, consumers still care about that. Still care about that. So as you start to look at a multi-channel strategy, you really need to focus on how you differentiate yourself through your products and services, not necessarily by your distribution channel or things like price per se. The second thing, and this is using an example from the company that I came from. We had a brand, Savage X Fenty, with Rihanna. And we sold on our own channels, but one of the biggest challenges was our acquisition costs were more than we made on our first sale. In fact, it took us 2 or 3 sales to actually make a return on our investment to acquire customers. So we very quickly, thankfully, we had a recurring revenue model, so it worked for us. But if you're just selling one-off products, it becomes very difficult to attract consumers just to your Magento site, your BigCommerce site, or your Shopify site, and that's a real challenge for sellers. So at Savage X Fenty, what we did is we developed a strategy for channel because we knew we had to play in that space in order to actually be competitive and attract and sell to our customers. So we developed a strategy, and it was all around growing channel. We wanted to leverage these marketplaces and these channels to actually sell more product. The second thing that we did was we wanted to focus on net new growth and not cannibalization. So it was really important that we not cannibalize where we make our most money, which was on our brand site. The third thing was we wanted to make sure that we could elevate the consumer experience. Not all brands and not all sellers are in this position, but we were able to leverage Amazon Prime Video to do our fashion show, which elevated the consumer experience, and we did that in partnership with them. And then we also were able to create our own boutique on Amazon that kind of had some more of our branding to maintain that control over our brand, like I talked about in step 1. So really, when you're thinking about marketplaces, you need to know who you're doing business with and how you can actually work with them in order to elevate the consumer experience. And then the last thing, and something we hear a lot, is counterfeit products, especially on marketplaces like Wish, but even Amazon has issues with sellers either selling real product but against their terms of service, or not doing it according to MAP pricing, or they're selling they're selling counterfeit product on these channels, and that's cutting into the margins and also the brand experience that on the consumer side as well, as they're not buying real authentic products. So for us, it was really, really important that we had a source of guaranteed authentic product, or we were the source of guaranteed authentic products. So we were able to control our products being sold on those marketplaces. So fundamentally, you really want to treat these marketplaces as marketing channels for you, to really get those insights and understand customers, leverage unique consumer experience, raise your brand profile, and then measure attribution as to which channels are driving the most revenue for you. Yes, they do take margin, but that's why we say kind of treat it as a marketing channel for your brand. The third thing is that in order to do this well, like I mentioned in one of my previous slides, that symbiotic relationship between the consumer demands and then your seller's ability to meet those demands, it becomes really, really important. So doing it with operational capability and doing it with operational efficiency so that you can reach your customers, but connect and really automate as much of that process as possible, working smarter and maintaining that value that you're providing to your customers, is a critical part of this. It's I can't tell you how many sellers we see try and do a multi-channel strategy with tools that just don't work, or they try and manage it over spreadsheets, and it ultimately leads to frustration on the seller and consumer side and a failure of those channels. So we encourage sellers to really look before they really go full force into these marketplaces. Look at your operational capability and your operational efficiency. And we worked with Ford, as I mentioned, to help them go direct to consumer, selling their parts on multiple channels, but doing it through a single system. So that's kind of that's my presentation for today, and I'm curious to know if anybody has any questions about it.
Yeah, I do have some questions if you don't mind. Couple of things that I just want to specifically address about Magento. So, and like I know, like we have a client on Magento 1.9 who's using Leanworks, and in the future migration to Magento 2, I know like with a couple of my clients, we still prefer to stay on Magento 1.9 for the certain reasons. So the question is, would you guys be available to support Magento 1.9?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, right now for us, we try and keep up with the most modern versions of our channels that we can to offer the most features to the customers. But we obviously, with Magento, we've got two different products, right? So what we're trying to do is maintain connectivity, or what we will do is maintain connectivity to Magento 1.9, as long as it doesn't become a security risk. Obviously, Magento will start to degrade that product over time, and sellers should move at some point in time, but we don't have any plans at the moment to end support for that. We did drop certain protocols this past month, but our customers can continue to run Magento 1. Sorry, that's a tongue twister. Sites using PHP SOAP API instead.
And about integration to with, let's say, if I'm a merchant, I'm running Magento 2.3, right? So basically the question is, I want to, let's say, use Leanworks as a platform. The question is, how complicated would it be to just set up this integration?
Yeah. So with our integrations, some of our integrations, we're able to, you enter your credentials in. It's fairly easy to set up, and then we're able to pull inventory over. Magento is unfortunately not one of those channels. So the way that we work is you're able to export if your single source of truth for your inventory and your imagery and all that stuff is Magento. We help you export your we help you export your inventory and information outside of Magento, and then import it into our system. And that's where we sync everything up. So once it's already set up, it's actually fairly simple, and we just sync orders, inventory levels, and any changes that you make to your pricing, things like that.
Question. So let's say I have a Magento instance. I maybe I know that on Leanworks website there is a page which allows you to kind of, number one, you have to disable Magento multi-source inventory system first before you do any other integration. Then you just set up in the API users, the user with a specific permission. So basically, what I'm just telling to the audience is, if you want to connect Magento 2.3 with Leanworks, you don't have to do any development except turning off the Magento multi-store. So if you have, there is a link to Magento documentation how to do it. But if you don't know how to do it, then kind of go ahead, reach out to the Mage Cloud. We can run this one comment for you, and that's about it. One of the challenge that might happen from our experiences, from what I remember, with one of our clients, because of some kind of issue with the Magento core, there is certain issues with the synchronization or integration with the bundled products, with the Linworks. So with the guys who's right now online, again, I want to be transparent. Like there is this is a core Magento issue that unfortunately Linworks does not have to, cannot would not be responsible. So this is something else that you have to watch for. Okay, so one of the other stuff that I wanna kind of ask you, like let's imagine I have a client, right? He has an Amazon store, okay? Amazon store, product listing over there, he sells over there. And now he's trying to get Linworks and Magento 2.3. Magento 2.3 already working just fine, like it's already there. One of the issues is images, inventory system, and the product information is not there. Question, is it possible, right, somehow from Amazon, pull the product data, load it into the Linworks, and then push it into the Magento? Is there any sort of like support?
Yep.
Like,
yeah, so this is our extract inventory tool. So for certain channels, we're able to actually extract the inventory data out of the systems or out of the channels if they'll allow us to. And then, you know, our team helps map that information to your other channels. So really with Linworks, you know, we want to house, like, the best way to set it up is to make Linworks the central hub for all your product information. From there, you know, all the details that you have for each of your channels can be put into our system, including your product imagery, your descriptions, your pricing, all of that. So once we can extract it from certain channels and then link it to other channels if you'd like, or, you know, we can help you set up from scratch and then push it out to your channels. So, you know, it's kind of a two-part answer to your question. One, if you already have your channel set up, it's about, you know, bringing that data into our system and linking it. Or if you, you know, want to start from Linworks and relist from Linworks and start clean, you can put all that information in our system and then just easily push it out, push your listings out to Magento, Amazon, eBay, BigCommerce, Walmart, and a few others.
so basically, I have to go back to my client and say, listen, if your product's already on Amazon, there is a way to grab those products, push them into the Linworks, and then they will be automatically pushed into the Magento.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, that's awesome answer. I mean, like, I think the whole presentation in full 30 minutes was, I mean, so basically for all of the guys, I think a lot of sellers and merchants, they already have the nice inventory somewhere else on Amazon, eBay. Beside Amazon and eBay, would you mind to just tell, like, any other tools in your mind that you can pull the data from? I know you cannot pull data from Magento, but maybe other.
Yeah, I'll have to ask our, to be honest with you, I'll have to ask our tech team on that one, because we have over 50 different connections to marketplaces. So to go through each and every one of them and kind of figure out the, know the extract. So that would be a
Okay. So let me then ask another stuff. So about the timing for the synchronization, like if everyone wants to update the inventory in real time, would you mind to share a little bit how you guys specifically work with Magento, how often updates happen, let's say with the orders, with the customers and stuff like that?
Yeah, so our sync with Magento typically happens about every 6 to 8 minutes. Every channel is different, obviously, because of the limitations that they have on their API calls. But for Magento's side, we're syncing everything every 6 to 8 minutes. I mean, our goal is to make sure that you don't oversell. That is one of the biggest things that we try to avoid for you by syncing your inventory levels across all your other channels. So we want to make sure that we have constant syncs with each channel just to check and make sure, okay, did you sell an order? You know, pull that data into our system and then push it out to your other channels to make sure that those inventory levels are updated on your Amazon, your eBay channels, and any other channel that you have connected with LineWorks.
So I can see the question from Jenny. So you mentioned having a marketplace strategy. What are some tips you can give if I'm migrating product info from my Magento storefront and moving into the selling channels?
Let me just read this. Is that question down here? Let's see. You mentioned migrating product from Magento storefront and moving it to selling channels. My advice is to, from a strategy perspective, is to take your best selling products, ones that you've been selling for quite some time, and actually put them on these other channels and see how they gain, see where they gain traction. I can't tell you, which channel is going to work best for your product. In fact, there's a specialty marketplaces like Etsy is a specialty marketplace. Houzz is a specialty marketplace for furniture. Wayfair is the same thing. So, you have to kind of look at the different channels that work for your products that you sell. But I do tell sellers that they need to work with their hero products and see what works best. The other thing to point out too is sometimes if you're selling other brands' products, so if you're a retailer that is trying to sell these products on other sites, try and find products that aren't on these sites if you can. If you have that luxury, that's where you can win the buy box very, very easily. But if you're trying to sell products that other people are selling and just test it out, it becomes very tricky because you're obviously not going to command the first spot in the buy box. And so you won't get a solid read on whether or not that channel is going to work for you quickly enough.
One more question, Jason, here. It's about the pricing. So basically, it seems like the LineWorks is like the starting point is starting from €1,000 per month. The question is there any cheapest version, any special deals for attendees of this webinar?
Yeah, I'm wondering where the €1,000 price point's coming from. Pricing is an interesting thing in B2B software. A lot of our competitors have a bunch of levers that they pull in order to actually understand the price that they should charge you. What we try and do is keep our pricing in line with the value that we bring to the table. Our main key metric for measuring that is orders. Obviously we've got channels, orders, users, data, SKUs in the system, all these different levers to kind of understand the need that the customer has out of a system like ours. But we try and keep it as simple as possible. So I'm not sure how small that shop is. But if you call our sales team and kind of explain how many orders you're doing, again, that's our lead metric, and we try and work out pricing. We certainly do have users at much less than €1,000 per month, but it just depends on the size and scale of your business.
Okay, so
question.
So from what I understand from this kind of conversation, there is still a room for the negotiation of the stuff. But is it like a like a €1,000 as a price, or there is extra fee on top of that?
Yeah, so we have there's two things. One is we have a monthly subscription fee, and then we also have kind of an implementation fee. But what we do, we're a recurring or we're a SaaS-based business, so our implementation fees are typically much less than our competitors, just because we typically eat the cost of that, or eat most of the cost of that, because we want our sellers to be successful long term. So we do kind of say, look, like a system like ours has a lot of different options and a lot of different tools, and without proper guidance, you may miss out on something that could save your business a lot of money or save you a lot of time and effort. And so we do kind of ask, we don't mandate it, but we do ask that, we do have an implementation fee and an implementation service where you get a guided tour of our platform. We help you import your data, get everything set up, because we know, from looking at our own data and from our customers themselves, if they're set up properly, they're much happier, they're much more successful, and they stay with us longer. So we try and, there is a cost to that, there is time to that, so we charge for that, but we try and keep that cost minimal.
Just to make sure that this is, guys, this is not like a sales pitch webinar, let me give you also the fact. If you want to integrate your Magento store with Amazon and eBay, there is also extensions on the market that you can also use. But in this particular case, the entire inventory that you have, the customer base, it will be just on your Magento, right? So with Leanworks, it's a little bit like, maybe, let me tell you, maybe Leanworks is, if you're a very small shop, maybe Leanworks is not yet for you. But once you start raising the business, then you will see, all right, I want to synchronize all of those customers. You have to have like one system which is like control everything you have in the different channels with the shipping, etc. Was all my best, but to Magento itself. But I think that like in that particular case, Magento would be just one of the channel. Or if you will rely on Magento as your kind of the core stuff, especially with updates from Magento 2.1 to 2.2, from 2.2 to 2.3, from 2.3 to 2.4. I mean, that's just too much hassle. In this case, Leanworks might be like a one-step shop, one hub for everything else. If for whatever reason your server goes down with Magento, still the Leanworks will be communicating with like eBay, Amazon, etc. Right? So that's, I think that's one of the benefits. And like, but like I said, if you just want to connect your like your small shop, etc., and like the pricing of Leanworks is not affordable, take a look. There's a couple of extensions you can Google. Can I name one of it on this
Yeah, go for
webinar?
it.
So we had amazing webinar a couple of months ago with M2E Pro, which is a very native integration between Magento and eBay and Amazon and Walmart. So M2E Pro, go ahead. You can go to our blog and read a little bit more and watch the video as well. So that's kind of another small step, small thing that you guys can try on. Okay,
Yeah,
so
from that perspective, I mean, it's for us, it's all about what's best for the seller, right? So, if we're not the right solution, we'll certainly, tell you that. And there are certainly other tools out there that allow you to connect your marketplaces, but it depends on what we kind of say is, look, it depends on, your scale, your size, what you're trying to accomplish, and your long-term strategy. So when it comes to, like you said, with Magento, a lot of sellers will put their eggs in all the Magento basket, or they'll put it in the BigCommerce basket or the Shopify basket because it's very convenient, or they have, kind of these tools to help you access these other channels. But we always tell sellers, like, you have to look at the core competency of these platforms and what they're built to do. And then these other extensions that they have are efforts to kind of keep you in their ecosystem. But it also locks you into that ecosystem, right? And so when things don't go right, or things break, you're kind of locked into that. And then the second thing is, if it's not their core competency, they're not going to be focused on developing the most, forward features or the most access to other channels that you could possibly have. Whereas, like, from a Leanworks perspective, this is what we do day in and day out. This is what we focus on: order management, inventory management, multi-channel e-commerce. This is what we, have chosen to do for a living. And so, we strive to always be on the forefront of all these new things that are happening. So like Google, for example, Google Shopping Actions, Facebook, and everything that they're doing. We talk with these guys on a regular basis and are in constant development on new channels, new selling places, and new functionality when it comes to order management for our sellers.
Coming back to the new technology that you just mentioned, Anna
Machine
Malinova
learning.
asking, do you plan to integrate, or you do already, any machine learning algorithms in the Leanworks services?
Yeah. So a couple things. One, we have an open API. Everything in our system is every click in our system can be called. So when it comes to plugging into tools, we have the capability to pretty much plug into anything that you would like to plug into. When it comes to kind of native services on the machine learning front, we currently don't have any, plug and play tools on that front. However, what I can tell you is one of the key focuses of our business is the data that we have and how to make that data more actionable for our sellers. So well, I can't kind of speak too much to our roadmap. There's quite a few things that we're looking at, or quite a few things that we're working on from a development perspective to make you smarter, to help you make decisions about what products to put on what channels and why. And that is a core focus that will machine learning, AI, all of that stuff is, we've got an R&D department that is I said, I don't want to get myself in trouble with my boss, but things that we are looking at and working on.
Okay, sounds good. Guys, let's see if there's any other questions. Go ahead. We have a couple of more minutes left before we shut over. So if any, just let me know.
Yeah, I see one here about from Marcin. Marcin, when it comes to getting set up, if you know you're going to go multi-channel as a strategy, we do advise looking at these tools because the setup of going multi-channel is really important to get right from the start. So utilizing a tool that allows you to keep your data organized and ready to deploy is something you should probably look at in your strategy as one of the first steps you should do, especially if you know that your plan is to and you have like a pretty aggressive timeline to go multi-channel. Otherwise, you'll end up with having to translate data, which is a really painful process, especially if you have quite a few SKUs to do it on.
Sounds good. So let me then probably try to share my screen and also give to all of our attendees a couple of things from our end. From our end, we would like to go ahead and share some coupon codes that I can also send you guys after the webinar. Feel free to use those coupon codes by saving like different extensions and integrations. Just one point, please don't publish those coupon codes online, because I do have a agreement with those vendors that those coupon codes will be just for my agency or for my clients only. But again, feel free to use that and save the money. Let me see if there are any more questions so far on the live chat. It seems like it's so good. I do understand that in certain minutes it's very hard to to answer all of the questions, but at least I hope that the attendees will be aware of LeanWorks and will be looking into the solutions for the multi-channel, and hopefully you guys will get more sales months after months after this webinar.
Great.
All right, then, Jason, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for really great insight. I do hope that you enjoy the conversation with our guest, and
Yep.
hopefully we'll hear you on the next webinar.
Yeah, one thing I'll drop in the chat, I'll drop a link to my LinkedIn. So if you want to connect with me, I always encourage you to reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to, if you want to have a conversation about your e-commerce strategy. I always want to know from sellers what they're thinking and what they're doing, because it helps us. Or if you're looking to have a conversation about LeanWorks or MageCloud, feel free to reach out to me. So I'll link my profile in right now, and feel free to connect with me.
All right, sounds good. Then,
all right, everybody. Paul,
bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.